In today's podcast, you will learn English in a calm, simple, and natural way. Not by studying boring grammar rules, but through a powerful real-life story. The story of Jungkook, a young boy from Busan who once felt shy, unsure, and small in a very big world, but deep inside he had a small dream, a dream that he could not fully understand at that time. This story will help you improve your listening, your speaking, and your understanding of real English, because you will learn with emotions, with real situations, and with meaningful life moments. You will see how a simple boy with big dreams faced fear, pressure, and difficult choices, but step by step, slowly, quietly, he changed his life, and one day he became a global artist in the world, a member of BTS, and loved by fans all over the world. This is not just a success story. This is a journey of growth, discipline, and self-belief. So don't just listen, feel the story, imagine the moments, and let your English grow naturally as we begin this journey. Jungkook was born on September 1, 1997, in the beautiful coastal city of Busan. A city known for its peaceful beaches, busy streets, and a lifestyle that is slower and quieter compared to the capital city, Seoul. This environment, calm and simple, became the background of Jungkook's early life. He grew up in a small and loving family where life was not full of luxury, but it was full of care. His father worked hard to support the family, and his mother stayed close to home, giving warmth and emotional support. He also had an older brother who was not just a sibling, but someone who would quietly influence his interests and personality as he grew. As a child, Jungkook was not the type of boy who spoke loudly or tried to get attention. Instead, he stayed quiet most of the time, observing people, thinking deeply, and often keeping his feelings inside. In school, he was just another student, not the top of the class, not the most popular, just someone trying to find his place in a world that sometimes felt too big. There were moments when he felt unsure about himself, moments when he did not know what he was good at or what his future would look like. And this feeling, this quiet confusion, stayed with him during his early years like a question that had no answer yet. But slowly, very slowly, something began to change. It started with music. At first, it was just simple listening, songs playing in the background, sounds that filled the room. But for Jungkook, it was not just sound, it was emotion, it was energy, it was something that touched him deeply in a way he could not explain in words. He began to watch music performances on television, and those moments became very special for him, because when he watched artists perform, he saw confidence, power, and freedom, things that he did not feel in his own life at that time. One of the biggest influences on him was G-Dragon from Big Bang. When Jungkook saw him perform, he was not just watching a singer, he was watching someone who owned the stage, someone who expressed himself without fear, someone who turned music into something alive. And in those quiet moments, sitting in front of a screen, Jungkook felt something new growing inside him, a dream. Not a clear dream, not a fully formed goal, but a feeling, a small voice inside him saying, maybe, one day, I can do this too. But then reality came back. Because in real life, Jungkook was still that shy boy who felt nervous speaking in front of people, who was not sure of his abilities, who did not yet believe in himself. The dream felt far away, almost impossible, but still it stayed, slowly, quietly, patiently, like a small light waiting for the right moment to shine. As Jungkook continued to grow, the quiet feeling inside him, that small dream, slowly started becoming stronger. It was no longer just a thought, it was becoming a direction, something that pulled him forward, even when he did not fully understand it. During his middle school years, life began to change a little, not in a big dramatic way, but in small, meaningful steps. Jungkook started to take music more seriously. He listened more carefully, he observed more deeply, and sometimes, when no one was watching, he tried to sing. But even then, he was still very shy. His voice was soft and his confidence was low. He was not someone who would stand in front of a crowd and perform. In fact, the idea of singing in front of people made him nervous. His heart would beat fast and his mind would become blank. Still, something inside him did not allow him to stop. One day, an opportunity came. Something unexpected, something that would change the direction of his life. Jungkook decided to audition for a television talent show called Superstar K. This was a big step, especially for someone like him, because this was not just singing at home. This was standing in front of judges, cameras, and strangers. When he reached the audition, everything felt overwhelming. The lights, the people, the pressure. It was all too much for a quiet boy from Busan. But still, he stood there. His hands were not steady, his voice was not perfect, and his confidence was still fragile. But he sang. And that moment, even though it was not perfect, even though he did not win, became one of the most important moments of his life. Because for the first time, Jungkook stepped out of his comfort zone. For the first time, he faced his fear. And even though the result was not success, the experience changed him. Something surprising happened after this audition. Many entertainment companies noticed him. They saw something in him, not just his voice, but his potential, his presence, his raw talent, something that could grow into something special. Different companies started offering him a chance to become a trainee. This was a big moment, a confusing moment, because now Jungkook had to make a choice, a serious decision at a very young age. Should he stay in his normal life, in Busan, with safety and comfort, or should he leave everything behind and follow a path full of uncertainty, hard work, and pressure? This decision was not easy. He was still young, still unsure, still learning about himself. But sometimes life gives you a moment, a single moment where you must choose your direction. And Jungkook was standing exactly in that moment. A quiet boy with a growing dream and a life-changing decision in front of him. He did not know what the future would bring, but deep inside, that small light was still there, guiding him, slowly forward. After the Superstar K audition, Jungkook's life slowly began to move in a new direction. The moment he stood on that stage, even with fear in his heart, had opened a door. And now, many paths were in front of him. Different entertainment companies showed interest in him. Some were big, well-known, and already successful. For a young boy, this kind of attention could feel exciting, but also confusing, because every choice would decide his future. Jungkook was still very young, and he did not have full confidence in himself yet. So he listened carefully, he observed quietly, and most importantly, he thought deeply about where he truly belonged. During this time, he learnt about a smaller company called Big Hit Entertainment. A company that was not very famous at that time, not powerful like the big agencies, but it had something different, something simple, and something honest. This company was led by Bang Si-hyuk, a man who believed strongly in music and in building artists slowly, with real effort and real emotion. When Jungkook saw videos of a trainee named RM, something changed inside him. RM was not just performing, he was expressing himself, with confidence, with intelligence, and with a strong presence. And for Jungkook, that moment became very important. He felt inspired. He felt that this was the place where he could grow. So even though many bigger companies wanted him, Jungkook made a surprising decision. He chose Big Hit Entertainment. This choice was not based on fame or money. It was based on feeling, on instinct, on a quiet belief that this was the right path for him. But choosing this path also meant something very difficult. He had to leave his home, he had to leave Busan, his family, his comfort, and move to Seoul, a big, fast, and unfamiliar city. This was not easy. For a shy young boy who had always lived in a safe environment, this change felt heavy, emotional, and even a little scary. There were moments when he felt alone, moments when he missed his family deeply, moments when everything felt uncertain. But at the same time, something new had started: his training. Inside the company, Jungkook was no longer just a student, he was now a trainee, someone who had to learn, improve, and prove himself every single day. The training was not simple. It was long, tiring, and very demanding. He practiced singing again and again, trying to control his voice, trying to improve his tone, trying to become better than he was yesterday. He practiced dancing for hours, repeating the same movements, making mistakes, correcting them, and starting again. Sometimes his body felt tired, sometimes his mind felt weak, but he did not stop, because now his dream was no longer far away. It was right in front of him. And even though the path was difficult, he had finally taken his first real step. A step away from comfort and a step towards something bigger, something that would slowly change his life forever. Life in Seoul as a trainee in Big Hit Entertainment was very different from the peaceful days Jungkook had known in Busan. Everything moved faster. Everything demanded more, and every day felt like a test. Jungkook was now surrounded by other trainees, boys who were also chasing the same dream. Some of them were older, more experienced, and more confident. And at first, this made Jungkook feel small again, just like he had felt in his school days. He did not speak much. He mostly observed, listened, and followed instructions. But inside, there was always a quiet pressure, a feeling that he needed to improve, that he needed to become stronger, better, faster. His daily life became a strict routine. Early mornings, long practice hours, short breaks, and then practice again, sometimes late into the night, sometimes until his body felt too tired to move. He practiced singing with full focus, learning how to control his breathing, how to express emotion through his voice, how to stay stable even when he felt nervous. His voice was still young, still developing, but slowly it began to gain strength and color. Dance training was even more difficult. He had to learn complex movements, sharp steps, perfect timing, and strong expressions. At first, his body could not follow everything. He made mistakes, he lost balance, he forgot steps, and sometimes he felt frustrated with himself. There were moments when he stood in front of the mirror, looking at his reflection and quietly asking himself, "Am I good enough?" These moments were heavy, but they were also important because instead of giving up, Jungkook did something different. He worked harder. When others rested, sometimes he continued practicing, repeating the same move again and again until it felt natural, until his body understood it without thinking. He watched videos, studied performances, and tried to learn from every small detail. He did not just want to improve, he wanted to transform. During this time, he also started building strong connections with other trainees, especially with members who would later become part of BTS like Jin, Suga, J-Hope, RM, Jimin, and V. These relationships were not just about music, they were about support, understanding, and growing together. They trained together, ate together, struggled together, and slowly they became like a family. But even with this support, the pressure never disappeared, because being a trainee meant living with uncertainty. There was no guarantee of success, no promise of debut, no clear future. Every day, Jungkook had to prove himself again. Every day, he had to fight his own doubts. And yet, something inside him had changed. He was no longer just a shy boy from Busan. He was becoming stronger, more focused, more determined. The journey was still difficult, the path was still unclear, but slowly, day by day, he was growing into someone new, someone who was not running away from fear anymore, but facing it step by step with quiet strength. As time passed, the training inside Big Hit Entertainment became more serious, more intense, and more focused. Because now there was a new possibility in front of Jungkook and the other trainees, the possibility of debut. This was the moment every trainee was waiting for, but it was also the most stressful time, because debut did not mean that everyone would succeed. It meant that only a few would be chosen, and the rest might have to give up their dream. Jungkook could feel this pressure every single day. The practice sessions became harder, the evaluations became stricter, and the expectations became higher. Every move, every note, every expression was being watched carefully. There were times when the trainers gave strong feedback, sometimes even criticism, pointing out mistakes, weaknesses, and areas that needed improvement. And for someone like Jungkook, who was still sensitive and quiet inside, these moments were not easy. Sometimes, after long practice hours, he would sit alone, thinking deeply, replaying his mistakes in his mind, wondering if he was really ready, wondering if he truly deserved this chance. He had come so far. He had left his home, his family, his old life, and now everything depended on this one phase. The fear of losing everything was real, but at the same time, there was also something else. A growing strength, because Jungkook was no longer the same boy who once doubted himself all the time. He had trained, he had struggled, he had improved, and somewhere along the way he had started to believe, even if it was just a little. During this period, the group that would later become BTS slowly began to take shape. The members trained together more closely, learning how to move as one team, how to match each other's energy, how to create something bigger than just individual talent. Jungkook, being the youngest, was often called the maknae, the youngest member, and this role came with both comfort and pressure. The older members cared for him, guided him, and supported him. But at the same time, he also felt a responsibility to work hard, to not disappoint them, and to grow quickly. He looked up to members like J-Hope for dance, Suga for music, and RM for leadership and expression, and slowly he began to learn from all of them. He did not try to be better than others, he tried to become better than himself, and this mindset quietly started to change everything. The days were still long, the nights were still tiring, and the future was still uncertain. But now, Jungkook was not just following a dream, he was fighting for it, with discipline, with patience, and with a silent determination. Because deep inside he knew this was his moment, and he could not let it go. After years of training, long nights, pain, doubt, and continuous effort, the moment that Jungkook had been waiting for finally arrived. The debut. In June 2013, Jungkook stood on stage, not as a trainee anymore, but as a member of BTS, a group that was still unknown to the world, but full of energy, ambition, and something different. Their debut song was No More Dream, a powerful track that talked about youth, pressure, and the struggle of following dreams in a world that often forces people to choose safe paths. When Jungkook stood under the stage lights, everything felt unreal. The bright lights, the loud music, the cameras, the audience. This was the same world he had once watched from a distance, sitting quietly in Busan, dreaming silently. And now he was inside that world, performing. His heart was beating fast, his body was full of energy, and his mind was focused because this moment, this stage, was not just a performance. It was the result of everything he had gone through. Every practice, every mistake, every tear, every doubt. All of it had brought him here. But debut did not mean success. In fact, the beginning was difficult. BTS was not from a big company, they did not have strong support from the industry, and they were competing with groups from powerful agencies with more attention, more resources, and bigger fan bases. At first, not many people noticed them. Their music was different, their style was bold, and their message was strong, but recognition did not come easily. There were small audiences, limited attention, and many challenges. For Jungkook, this was another test, because after reaching the stage, he now had to stay there. He had to prove himself again, not just as a trainee, but as an artist. His role in the group was important. He was the main vocalist, often called the Golden Maknae, because he was good at many things, singing, dancing, performing, and even learning quickly. But with this title came more responsibility. He pushed himself harder, practicing even more, trying to improve his voice, make his performances stronger, and become someone the audience would remember. There were times when he felt tired, times when his body needed rest, but his mind kept moving forward, because now this was no longer just a dream. This was his reality. And even though success had not arrived yet, he was standing on the path. A path he had chosen, a path he had fought for, and a path that was about to test him in ways he had never experienced before. After their debut with No More Dream, life did not suddenly become easy for Jungkook and the members of BTS. In fact, the real struggle had just begun. The group continued to release new music, songs like N.O. and later Danger. Each song carried strong messages about youth, pressure, and identity. But even with powerful music, the recognition was still limited. They performed on different stages, sometimes in front of small audiences, sometimes in places where not everyone knew their names. And sometimes the response was quiet. For many artists, this stage can be very difficult. Because after debut, people expect success, attention, and growth. But when that does not happen quickly, doubt begins to return. Jungkook felt this too. There were moments when he stood on stage, performing with full energy, giving everything he had, but still wondering if people truly saw him, if they truly understood their music. After performances, when the lights turned off and the noise disappeared, there were quiet moments, moments of reflection, moments where questions slowly entered his mind. Are we moving forward? Will people ever notice us? Are we doing enough? But even in these moments, Jungkook did not stop. Instead, he focused on improving himself. He watched his own performances carefully, noticing small mistakes, small areas where he could grow. He practiced his vocals, trying to add more emotion, more stability, more depth. His dancing became sharper, more controlled, more expressive, and slowly his stage presence started to change. He was no longer just performing, he was connecting. During this time, the bond between the members of BTS became even stronger because they were going through everything together. The success was small, but the effort was big, and the journey was shared. They supported each other, encouraged each other, and reminded each other why they started. For Jungkook, the older members were still an important source of strength, especially RM, whose leadership kept the group focused, and J-Hope, whose energy and discipline inspired everyone. Slowly, very slowly, something began to change. Their performances became stronger, their music reached more people, and small groups of fans began to grow. These fans, later known as ARMY, started to support them, share their music, and believe in them, even when the world was not fully paying attention. This growth was not fast, it was not easy, but it was real. And for Jungkook, this slow progress taught him something very important. Success does not always come suddenly. Sometimes it comes quietly.
step by step, moment by moment, and only those who continue, even when no one is watching, are the ones who finally reach it.
As the years passed, something began to shift, slowly, quietly, but very powerfully. In the journey of BTS, the hard work, the patience, and the silent belief were finally starting to create a change. This change became clear during the release of a song called I Need You. This was not just another song, it was different. The sound was more emotional, the message was deeper, and the story behind it felt more real, more human. It talked about youth, pain, love, confusion, and the feeling of being lost. And for the first time, many people truly connected with it. Listeners could feel the emotion, they could see themselves in the music, and slowly the attention that had once been small began to grow. For Jungkook, this period was very special because he was no longer just trying to improve, he was beginning to express himself. His voice became more stable, more emotional, more powerful. When he sang, people could feel something, not just hear something. His stage presence also changed. He was more confident, more comfortable, and more connected with the audience. The shy boy from Busan, who once felt nervous even speaking, was now standing in front of thousands, performing with strength. And then a moment came, a moment that they had been waiting for a very long time, their first win. When BTS won on a music show for I Need You, it was not just a trophy, it was a confirmation, a sign that their journey, their struggle, their effort had meaning. On that stage, emotions were high. The members were overwhelmed, their voices were shaking, their eyes filled with tears. Because they remembered everything, the small stages, the doubts, the long nights, the uncertainty. And Jungkook, standing there, felt it all. This was not just success, this was proof that they were moving forward, that people were finally listening. But even in this moment, Jungkook did not stop thinking about growth. Because now expectations were higher, more people were watching, more people were listening, and more people were judging. Success brings attention, but it also brings pressure. And Jungkook knew this was only the beginning of a new phase, a phase where he had to grow even more, not just as a performer, but as an artist and as a person. The journey was changing, the world was starting to notice, and Jungkook was slowly becoming someone the world could not ignore. After the success of I Need You, everything began to move faster for BTS. The small steps they had taken for years suddenly started to become bigger, stronger, and more visible to the world. Their music reached more countries, their videos gained millions of views, and their performances began to attract larger audiences. The group that once performed on small stages was now standing in front of thousands, sometimes even tens of thousands of fans. And Jungkook was right at the center of this growth. His voice became one of the most recognizable parts of their music, strong, emotional, and full of feeling. When he sang, people listened, not just because of the sound, but because of the emotion behind it. Songs like Blood, Sweat and Tears, Spring Day, and later DNA showed a new level of artistry, a deeper style, a more mature sound, and Jungkook adapted to all of it. His performances became sharper, more controlled, and more expressive. Every movement, every note carried meaning. But with this success came something heavy: pressure. The world was watching now. Every performance had to be perfect. Every stage had to be powerful. Every moment had to meet expectations, not just from fans, but from the industry and from themselves. For Jungkook, this was not easy, because even though he looked confident on stage, inside he was still someone who cared deeply, someone who wanted to do his best, someone who felt the weight of responsibility. There were times when he pushed himself too hard, practicing again and again, trying to reach a level that felt almost impossible. Because now good was not enough. He wanted to be better every time. And sometimes this pressure affected him. There were moments of exhaustion, moments where his body was tired, but his mind did not allow him to rest. Moments where he questioned himself again, even after achieving so much. But something had changed in him over the years. He no longer ran away from these feelings. He faced them, he accepted them, and he continued moving forward. During this time, BTS also began to gain global recognition. They performed at international events, appeared on global stages, and reached audiences far beyond South Korea. One of the important milestones was their presence at events like the Billboard Music Awards, where they stood not just as artists, but as representatives of a new global wave of music. And Jungkook, the shy boy from Busan, was now standing in front of the world. But even at this height, his journey was not finished, because success is not the end. It is another beginning, a beginning that tests you in new ways, that asks you to grow again, and that challenges you to stay true to yourself. And Jungkook was now walking that path, with strength, with responsibility, and with a quiet determination that had never left him. As the years passed, and the success of BTS continued to grow, Jungkook reached a point in his life where everything looked complete from the outside. Fame, recognition, global love, millions of fans, and endless achievements. But inside, things were more complex. Because when a person reaches great success, a new question slowly appears. Who am I beyond all of this? Jungkook had spent many years training, performing, improving, and giving his best to the world. But now he began to look inward, to understand himself not just as an artist, but as a person. There were quiet moments, away from the stage, away from the noise, where he reflected deeply, thinking about his journey, his choices, and the person he had become. He remembered the shy boy from Busan, who once felt unsure about everything, and he realized how far he had come. But he also understood something important. Growth never stops. Even after success, even after reaching the top, there is always another level of understanding, another level of self-discovery. During this time, Jungkook also began exploring his individuality more clearly through solo projects, personal expression, and new creative directions. Songs like Euphoria and later his solo work 7 showed a different side of him, more personal, more expressive, and more connected to his own identity. His voice, which once felt soft and unsure, had now become powerful, controlled, and full of emotion. But more importantly, it had become his own. He was no longer just following a path, he was creating it. But even with all this growth, Jungkook remained grounded. He continued to respect his members, to value the journey they had shared, and to stay connected with the fans who had supported them from the beginning. Because deep inside, he never forgot the small stages, the long nights, the moments of doubt, and the quiet dream that started everything. His story was never just about fame. It was about transformation, about becoming stronger without losing softness, about becoming confident without forgetting humility, and about achieving success while still searching for meaning. And now, as this story comes to a gentle close, there is something important for you. You did not just listen to a story, you practiced English. You listened carefully, you understood emotions, you followed a long journey in simple language. This is how real English learning happens, not by memorizing rules, but by feeling, understanding, and repeating. So from today, try to listen more, try to speak slowly, and most importantly, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because just like Jungkook, you don't need to be perfect at the beginning. You just need to start and continue step by step. And one day you will see your own progress, your own confidence, and your own transformation. Keep listening, keep learning, and your English will grow naturally.